So he'll be back, I believe, next week. But this week, we got some cool stuff. We're going to be talking about winter, so it's first of the year. Everybody's going into January, February, March, sometimes April, May, mattering on where you live. It could be a different climate. It could get cold, start getting into snow. Not so much maybe where we're located in Florida, but this is something that a lot of people have to deal with. So we wanted to talk about it. And to talk about it, we actually have, one of our KelbyOne instructors coming on, Tracy. So Tracy's here with us to talk about basically approaching portraits in the winter. How do you approach portrait photography, and specifically for her, children and family photography? Before we get to that, we got some big news. One of the big things is Photoshop World 2019 is coming up, and we have an all-expense paid trip to Photoshop World going on right now. So if you go to photoshopworld.com/giveaway, anybody will win, not anybody, one person will win, not anybody, but one person will win a all-expense paid trip to Photoshop World, which is awesome. And one of the instructors that's going to be at Photoshop World is Tracy. And I think we have Tracy on Skype right now. Yep, there she is.
Hi, Erik.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah,
Great.
So you're going to be at Photoshop World, right?
I am, absolutely, in Orlando this May.
Yeah, so you could join Tracy and all the other instructors there at Photoshop World. If you go to just photoshopworld.com/giveaway, there you fill out the form, and one person's going to win. It doesn't matter if you're already a Photoshop World attendee, you've already bought a ticket, you can win too. Anybody can win, and it's all expenses paid. It's your flight, your hotel, meals, tickets, basically everything. So it's really cool. Yeah, just go right there. All you got to do is go down to the form, fill it out, and there you go. And speaking of the holidays and the holiday times, we just came off of the 12 Days of Christmas over at KelbyOne, which was crazy popular, like as popular as Bird Box on Netflix. But yeah, people, KelbyOne Pro members were loving that. If you go over to the toolkit here, let me bring it up. If you go to the toolkit, if you're a KelbyOne member, you go in here to the toolkit right here. I think you should see it on my screen here. And then you go down here. All these new items were all stuff that was added to the toolkit during the 12 days. And actually, as a side note, Tracy, right down here, has some light overlays in our toolkit, which Tracy doesn't know, but I use the light overlays in some of my rocket photography. So I've actually used every one of these light overlays in one of my shots, in my rocket shots. So that's really cool.
That's so cool, Erik.
Yeah,
and
right? So
it's going to be part of my course in May. I have a course that I'm writing called Light It Up, and that's what I'm going to be teaching in one of the courses, is how to, infuse light to your images.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool, and that's what I love about studying all different types of photography, is you can apply what you learn to other styles. In fact, I wonder if I know. Yeah, actually this one right here.
No way.
See that glow down there? That's actually one of your glows. You can see it. But
that
anyways,
is so.
Right there. Yeah. So that's what I definitely love to do that. I love to take different techniques and different topics from all different genres and apply them. So I think that's something too for this show today. If it's something where you don't shoot child or family portraits, you don't shoot landscapes, you don't shoot something, you're going to learn something, and that's what's so cool. As long as you keep an open mind about these techniques, you can apply it about everywhere. So that is really cool. But anyways, I want to get right to the topic because I don't want to spend too much time. Before we get there, though, we do have a giveaways today. We have a Lens Pro to Go gift card that we're going to be giving away. The coolest non-tripod tripod in the world, the Plotipod Ultra, which I love this thing. This is like a secret weapon. And then a new book from Scott, Photoshop for Lightroom users. So you can get one of those things. I will tell you at the end of the show how to win. And there's also another giveaway that's going to be, we'll talk about later on the show. So stick around for that. But anyways, Tracy, I wanted to jump right into our topic here, and that is winter. So, you know, we were talking beforehand just a little bit, but that's something that, you know, I know a lot of photographers struggle with. Well, I don't want to say struggle, but the winter could become a challenge, you know, because especially, let's talk first about shooting. You know, shooting during the winter can present as challenges because, you know, you're talking about, you're getting into snow, sleet, you know, dead stuff, you know, everything just kind of like turns into it can be a non-pleasing time. But how do you approach winter, shooting in winter? How do you approach it?
So the first thing that's challenging for me in general is just the fact that I'm cold all the time. Like I'm cold sitting in my office, I'm cold. So for me, winter is really challenging, but I have to shoot. I shoot all year round and I live in Rhode Island. I'm outside of Boston. So it's cold and we get a ton of snow, despite this year it's actually proving me different. But when we get snow, we get bombarded for days, and it can shift from being gorgeous to looking, as you said, like mucky and dead and gross so quickly. But despite that, you can create really dynamic images, and that's what I think so neat, because even though I shoot children, and as you mentioned, I know your focus is more on landscapes, it's interesting because you can create really compelling photos in the winter, and it's not so much that my style changes dramatically, but how I shoot has to change. Because so in the summer I'm shooting a lot at the beach. If you look at my portfolio, you know, New England has 4 very distinct seasons, and if you actually visit like my Instagram page, you can kind of almost see the colors shifts cyclically based on the seasons.
Right.
So once we hit winter, it's going to be more of the dead tones, the browns, the whites. But what I love about that is really creating images that are compelling, are going to be more storytelling images. So if it's snowing, for example, I'm going to be thinking about what I can infuse into an image that's going to really pop. And since my focus is on children primarily, I'm constantly thinking about like textures and accessories that can add interest to an image. So for example, if I'm outdoors and I'm shooting, so here we are in my summer months, forgive me.
Yeah.
But
But
if I'm
I see what you're saying. Even in the summer, like you're using colors and textures that complement the season.
exactly. So I imagine if you keep scrolling up, eventually we'll hit winter here. And I'm sorry, the other way up, the
Yeah.
other up.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's this summer, get us through.
Yeah. But
And
how cool are these shots, right? I
oh,
mean, these
thank
are
you.
great.
Thank you so much. So a lot of these, obviously, you're seeing, yeah, they're outdoors, they're bright, but now, okay, here's now where we're going to get into more of where I don't have the opportunity to infuse as much of the
Yeah.
out.
You're definitely in winter there.
There I am, yeah. And even actually that image with the red, that's a winter image. So you see the little girl here. And that's what I'm talking about by I am actually now bringing in color that I'm not going to necessarily be able to ascribe from landscape that is there. But it still becomes really, really compelling image, even if I'm just, you know, wrapping a blanket around a child or using something in order to not only balance out the temperatures for children, because again, I'm working with young subjects, and if they're cold, they're going to be miserable, but also again to add that interest to a photo. Um, the other thing I have to think about is actually just how I shoot in general, because we have a lot of trees here in the Northeast, and I'm used to really using the trees and tucking in underneath the dapple lighting. I talk about that in my family photography course. Well, in the winter, everything is just much brighter. Obviously, I don't have any of that tree cover for my shadows, so it's really, really different. And so when I shoot in summer months, I tend to actually underexpose my images. I want to save textures. I want to save the sunsets. And then later in post-processing, I can go back in and I brighten things up in Lightroom. When I shoot in the winter, I shoot entirely different. I actually tend to overexpose because I'm not as interested in the textures. For example, like snow is snow is snow. I'm not looking for every little, you know, texture within a snowflake, especially if I'm doing a wide landscape with a child involved. But I want to be able to expose properly for my skin and for my subjects. And so that, yeah, here are some examples. These are some good examples. And so in doing this, I'm spot metering for my, the children, and I'm really just more concerned about them in general and sort of letting that landscape, fall off in the distance and still having that separation and texture. But as you can tell, like the snow is fairly blown out here, but it
Right.
works for me in the sense that that's what I want you to feel, that this is winter. And so it needs to have that cold feeling to it, and that brightness.
Well, it also causes that pop. Everything pops off that white background. Yeah. It's very cool.
Exactly. And if you're a photographer who doesn't shoot outside in the winter very often because you're thinking, well, I'm just always used to shooting, in the summer months, in the warmer months, I really, really challenge you to get out there and do this, because not only will it help, so sort of if you're in business, this can really help separate you from the competition. Not everyone's willing to go outdoors and shoot. It's also a really neat time for children to be outdoors because they love the snow. They love it so
Mm-hmm.
much. Their expressions and their nuances and their responses are so pure, and capturing that joy for a parent, or if you're capturing it of your children, is really priceless. And this doesn't take long. When I do, a summer shoot is certainly, it might be like an hour on the beach because we're playing, but a winter shoot is like 10 minutes. So we get
Right.
out, we have some fun, we capture the moments, and it's over. But
So,
the images are there forever.
so one of the things that you talked about is, dealing with, how do you deal with kids in the winter and the cold? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah. So it depends on if I'm shooting on location, like if I'm meeting someone, let's say at a park, for example. I talk about this all the time. Whenever I'm on the show, I talk about setting expectations with parents, because as a child family photographer, the parents have so much to worry about as it is, just with like thinking about wardrobe, and in consideration of they're so overwhelmed by whether or not their children are going to behave. But there's more that goes into ensuring the success of a session, and it's really with setting expectations. So I tell my parents ahead of time, to consider elements that they can bring that would be of interest for the photos, like scarves, hats, those warm elements that are going to photograph well, but are also going to have dual function, which is, warming the children. And I also have a lot of those items on hand too. I constantly picking up really cute things that I think would photograph well, just in case I get to a shoot and the children are not layered enough. I also explain to parents, for example, in the case of us meeting in a park, I explained to them, that, don't let the kids out of the car until I get there, until we meet, until we talk. That way, the first 10 minutes of that shoot that I'm talking about is really the immediate moment for the child experiencing the environment and really being excited, versus being freezing and just being done and over it. If I were to arrive at a shoot, even if I'm completely on time or even early, but the parents have already gotten there, they've gotten out of the cars, the kids are throwing snowballs, now they're mad at each other, there's, wet
Mm-hmm.
hair, it's over, it's done. So the experience really needs to begin pretty much right away, but not until I'm
I
ready
know. I
to.
totally, I totally get what you're saying. Because, like, um, so my daughter, I mean, obviously we're from Florida, so we don't see snow that much. But when we do see snow, it is that same way. It's that immediate response is like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then about 15, 20 minutes into it, it's, oh my gosh, this is so cold. I just want to be out of here, you know?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's really good advice. But hey, I want to continue this conversation because I got a few more questions, and if anybody's got questions in the chat, just throw them in there. But we do have to take a break, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes, just continuing just how do we approach winter and getting the most out of our winter shoots.
When you need a tripod that is compact, that is portable enough to take with you anywhere, one that is adaptable to any situation, that will prove versatile enough for any shoot, and is compatible with your other gear, giving you freedom to create your own perspective. Look no further. Platypod Ultra does it all. Visit platypod.com for more info.
You're the best.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
Hey, we're back. Here we are. We're back. That was a quick one. But hey, so we got, we're continuing our talk. We got Tracy here, and we're talking about approaching the winter. And Tracy has, talking about Tracy, she's got 2 new courses out on KelbyOne that are awesome. She's got one on photographing siblings, and then also photographing toddlers. So, and she actually has 6 courses now on KelbyOne. So you can learn pretty much everything and anything about child and family photography, which I do have to, I do have a question for you, Tracy, because my neighbor Dana is getting like super into child and family portraits. We just a few months ago, she got into it a few months ago. I turned her on to, KelbyOne and turned on to your classes. She loves your classes, but she's wondering, she had a question. She wanted to know, okay, she wants to get into newborn photography sessions. How long are your sessions when you book for newborn photography?
So I always tell the parents that the session itself will take about an hour to an hour and a half, but it could take up to 3 hours. So I always slot out 3 hours for a newborn session. It entirely depends on baby's disposition, but honestly, usually about an hour in completion if I am able to see the newborns within the first 2 weeks of life. But anything can happen. Sometimes children spend more time in the NICU and then they're a little bit older, or sometimes just for a variety of reasons, they'll come in when they're a little bit older, more alert, and then sessions take longer.
So there you go, Dana. 3 hours. There you go.
3 hours.
But speaking of, we have another question coming in from Rose Kieran. Rose is asking, what would you suggest children wear for their first snow shoot? And then eye protection question. So do you suggest they wear eye protection? What are you suggesting they wear for their first snow shoot? So I guess this would be like they've never had a photography session out in snow before. Is there anything special?
So as far as eye protection, I'm not really shooting in like blizzards per se. So unless you want eye protection, because again, it would be really compelling for the image. Like I can picture a really cute pair of like sparkly snow goggles, because this is where my mind goes.
Yeah.
But no, not for the purposes of safety or anything, or if that's the case. I'm not shooting outdoors anyway.
I guess if you had some siblings that were like into like throwing snowballs at each other, maybe.
Sure. And then, but again, that comes with expectations. Like if I want them to have a snowball fight, I set up the rules ahead of time. I say you have to throw low or you have to throw far away. And that just kind of comes with managing and handling the shoot, which I talk a lot about in both of my courses, the toddler course and the sibling course. Yeah. Just managing the shoot, and that's I truly believe that's up to the photographer at that point, not the parents, because
that's why I'm a landscape photographer, because the managing the shoot part is what gets crazy.
So important.
I think that's probably more important than the shooting, right?
Absolutely, I say that all the time. The photos are secondary.
Well, that's funny.
And then to answer the original question about
Yep.
attire, and just like any other shoot for the summer, I want it to be contextually appropriate attire. We're in the snow, but I don't want puffy snow pants because again, that's not aligned with my brand. But I'm really specific in clothing, and I send ahead of time a sort of a what to wear guide with some inspiration, not with what exactly to wear, but just some ideas. And usually clients follow suit really well. So just warm, cute leggings and a parka, something maybe with fur to add to the textures, and again some cute hats, anything with color. And I sometimes say like I love a color pop, but I don't want too much design or print to detract from the child.
Okay, yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, and I can see that in your work. I see that. So that obviously comes. People come to you for a reason, right? I mean, that's what you were going for, right? You want to look, and
Exactly.
that's definitely what you got there. So cool.
Highly stylized. Thanks.
So another question from Tammy. Tammy's saying, are any winter shots? Are there any winter shots that have been overdone that you avoid? So winter shots that are overdone, you avoid doing them because they're just overdone.
So I think that's an interesting question. I always want to shoot with, let's say, authenticity and purpose, but at the end of the day, we're all inspired from a variety of things, and I don't think there's really anything. Is snow overdone? I don't feel like anything that's like overdone if you make it your own, and so that's why I talk a lot about having a style and having a brand that's consistent. Because even if I'm doing something, let's say, overdone, children building a snowman, let's take that for. I'm still going to spin it and make it my own. Truly, the composition's going to be mine. The brightness where I want that color pop is going to be mine. Maybe I'm adding in some light rays to like have that snowman illuminated, and that's all going to come within my style, making it authentically mine.
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting point because I do the same thing with my photography. A lot of times, especially when I'm doing photojournalism for shooting rockets, there's 40 people within, or 40 photographers within 20 feet or 20 yards of me getting the same shot. So there's gonna be that same shot, but then it's the thing of what's gonna separate your shot from everybody else's. I actually just had that happen to me. And this is something that, it's just that I wish I could get more photographers for this to click. And that is, so I was there, with a bunch of other photographers. We're all there. We're shooting on a causeway. But I was down at the water's edge with my camera about 6 inches off the ground. And everybody else was about 10 feet up at tripod level. And there's a big difference between that shot glossing across the water telephoto than the shot. Well, I can actually probably show it like what is it? This shot, right? So you can see, it's weird, but you can see the water's actually, I'm very low to the water. If you look at that shot with somebody else, you won't get that compression on the water. And that's the difference. It's just those little things that you can do to your shot that make it different from everybody else's shot. And it's the same thing you're talking about with that. I don't think any shot's really overdone. It's what can you bring to the shot to make it different, because the shot maybe isn't overdone, because there's different ways to compose it. There's different ways to light it. There's different elements to put into the shot. You got to think differently as a photographer, because it really is, the whole world's becoming overshot, right? I mean, if you're going to subscribe to that theory, I mean, there's people that sometimes people contact us up and they go, we'll have a shot that somebody swears, that's my shot. I'm going to claim copyright on you. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure that's our shot, but it's like, it's because it was shot at the same place that's been shot a million times. But it's how you approach it, I think. And that's great advice. So Jerry's asking a question. What are your experiences and suggestions for photographing in foggy and light rain conditions, which is common? He's out in Washington State. So foggy, light rain kind of stuff.
So if you happen to see my recent sibling course, we shot about 8% of that course in the rain. And it's not something I normally do, but sometimes we don't have a choice as photographers to pick the weather, the environment. Wedding photographers certainly don't have a choice over when they can shoot. So I talked a lot about that in the course, and I invite you certainly to check it out. Um, Now, you have to be considerate of your gear, obviously, and protecting your gear. So I do try and shoot underneath something that's protecting me for the most part, like an awning or an umbrella, of course. And then similarly so, considering what I can add to the image that's contextually appropriate, but that also serves purpose. So in the case of the rain, an umbrella for the children.
Yeah, I remember that you did the umbrella. That was really cool.
And the kids are playing and they're having fun. Now, again, you can't do that for an hour because that's going to get old and the kids are going to get wet. And at that point, no one's happy. But the first few minutes of that are exhilarating for children. And you can capture some really, really beautiful photos. Now, as for fog, shooting in fog is awesome, especially like we have a lot of docks where I live. And when the lights start turning on, because we have to have lights on at certain times when there's a certain amount of fog for the boats. It's truly magical. I don't find if I'm outdoors, for 15 minutes, the lens adapts. There's not really any condensation or anything to that effect. So unless you're going from a really extreme environment of, cold to hot, vice versa, I don't find any issue. And if I do, I just have a little cleansing cloth for my gear. But I don't really think about it any differently other than that, of course, just light. So if it's foggy, it's going to be darker landscape. It's also going to be gloomier. So sometimes I'll shoot in cloudy mode to compensate that gray scale that my camera will be metering for, and just to warm everything up. But again, that's because that's my style. My images are very warm and bright. But yeah, look at this day. Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievably sour.
Yeah.
Look at
It's just overcast. But now that overcast too can make for some amazing soft light, right? I mean, that's
giant softbox.
Yeah.
And you notice that what's beautiful is now you're not competing with the bright sun. You don't have to worry about children squinting, which is fantastic. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and those colors can pop so dramatically. So it's really neat, and it provides for yourself some different imagery in your portfolio that helps separate you.
There you go. There you go. Well, yeah. So, and again, this everything you're saying applies to landscape as well. I mean, that's I tend to shoot landscape, and I do something where I shoot rockets, which tends to be landscape with rockets. But like if you look at like here's some shots from last winter when I went up, because I have to travel for snow. This does not happen around us. But I mean, you can get some really cool stuff with the winter. Because what it is you've got this dramatic with the mountain and the water and all that stuff. You get just really dramatic stuff. It's something that you wouldn't normally see throughout. And then snow is so pure. What's cool about snow is it is so pure, and it kind of like covers everything, kind of like softens everything out. And it's really cool. But anyways, I think one of the challenges with the winter is that you do have the ability, or you do have the weather, with like what you need to bring, like batteries. You'll go through batteries a lot quicker in the winter. That's one thing that I notice when I go out shooting in the winter. Even if I'm shooting in Florida in the winter, if it's 40 degrees or it's 32 degrees, it starts getting around that freezing. My batteries will go faster. That's the time when I have to put on battery grips on my cameras that are going to sit out and sit overnight and stuff like that. So most of the time I don't have to worry about it. But winter, one thing that I always suggest is more batteries.
I always put them I keep the extras in the interior pocket of my coat.
Yep,
so it's like
to keep them warm. Yeah, and sometimes you can even use the hand warmers to keep them warm. But yeah, that's one of the keys, because if you start getting into the landscape, start getting into some long exposure stuff. There's times I remember last time I was out shooting up in Canada in the winter, and you'd shoot 10 shots, and you're going through half your battery just shooting 10 shots.
Now I shoot handheld. So I'm always handheld. I never shoot on a tripod. So for me, if you're cold, that camera shake is significant. So I always have fingerless gloves too. That's another thing I always have in my bag.
and I love the gloves. You're talking about the ones where you take the tips off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Very cool. Well, hey, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're gonna have Troy Plota on, and we're gonna be talking about Plotaverse that's something that I think every photographer should look at for this winter, about something they can learn. So we'll be right back. I think Tracy's gonna be sticking around with us. We're gonna be talking about stuff in the do of this winter.
Hi. I'm sorry, what was that, Jason? Oh yeah, I'm happy to. Alrighty.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
Make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Grid by subscribing to Apple's podcast app or iTunes. It's free, and we even have a special audio-only version too. So sign up today.
Here we are. 5 seconds, then we came back. All right, so we're back. Hey, so Tracy's still around, but do we have Chris or Troy? Chris, do we have Troy on the line? Maybe. Is Troy
You guys
here?
hear me okay?
Oh yeah, there
I'm
you
here.
are.
I'm here.
Hey
Yeah,
Troy,
yeah.
how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. So joining us from cold Maui, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, Troy, you're the basically the inventor or the creator of this software technique. I don't know what we want to call it, but basically, Plotograph basically is
Yes.
the technique.
Yes.
And I just wanted to show people real quick, just like the context of what it is. So, Jason, if you want to flip over. So this is like one of my rocket shots here. So this is a flame coming down. But what's cool about Plotograph is it allows me to take that still image and make it move. And that takes minutes. And you see how it's just a still image, but then it moves. And it will just sit there and loop and loop and loop. And it's really just, it's very captivating. Everything that you want to have stay still, stay still. But I really want to talk about why this is a great fit for photographers. Because what's cool about Plotograph is that it's not timeline based. You don't have to buy new equipment or tools. You can use it on any photo you already have taken, and it works on your tablet, phone, or desktop. What's so cool about that is you can make any photo that you've taken ever in your life into an animation. So there's a photo, you can make it into an animation. It doesn't just work for rockets, though. I mean, you could take action shots, make those into animations. You could take, again, rocket shots, make those into animations. You could take landscapes. So this is a winter landscape. So this is Rami, one of his shots. And it actually has a a video layer over the top of it with that falling snow, and that's something that you can add into the in the software. And I'm sure Troy will show that. This is a shot from Karen Hutton that she did with landscapes. You know, you just subtle things you can do with your shots. Here's something that another KelbyOne instructor did. So this is Rob Foldy did a shot with the dolphins. So, you know, there's a dolphin shot, and then Scott was on the other side, and Scott did, you know, has got these, you know, these shots. So you've got like stuff like that, or like that, and it works great with fog. Tracy, this is one of Tracy's shots. So you've got, you know, snow, and you can add that little bit of animation, a little bit of something to make your images kind of come alive. Same thing here. You can make your images come alive with little snow. That was a shot that we saw earlier. So you can just kind of make it kind of pop. There's a shot of Tracy with the snow. You know, that these make these still photographs kind of come alive. It's kind of merging that layer between what is video and what is stills, kind of like, you know, kind of pushing that edge or that envelope of what is a still, what is a video. And these are so easy to make. And that's what I really want Troy at this point, you know, is going to come on and show us is how easy it is. And now, especially with their update that they did, just a couple weeks ago, it is super easy to get into this. They have a new animation tool, an automatic animation tool, right, Troy? So
Yeah, we're really excited to show you that. So basically the world of motion art. So it's these looping images that exist in between the still and the traditional video. And, you know, I've been a photographer for over 30 years now. So I wanted to make it easy for photographers to have some kind of video in their portfolio, in their reel, or their website, whatever it might be. So we've made it very easy. So there's no timeline to learn. It's super easy to animate your images, and it really does help you stand out. And customers love it. You know, whether you're shooting for an agency or brand, or even, you know, a wedding or whatever it might be. We have a really cool image to show you guys that we're going to do. We're going to show you our new algorithm that actually is automated now, which is pretty cool. So we have this wedding shot, this bride shot, I should say, that we're going to animate here for you. And the first thing you're going to do, you see the mask on the left, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to mask out the bride, and we're going to mask out like the little piece of land that she's standing on there. So you just go in with your brush and you just decide like, okay, so I'm going to, you know, select the dress and select the bride. And then we're also going to, you know, fill her in there. And then we're also going to mask out the land that she's standing on there, that little spit of land there in between the clouds and the water there. Yeah, so obviously that's a reflection. So we're not going to mask out the bottom part, basically, because that's in the water and that's the reflection. And we'll mask the dress in the front just a little bit more there. So you could be even a little bit like sloppy with it. Like even if you go outside the lines just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. And you're able to correct that too if you need to. So now the new thing that we have here, which is so cool, is let's go ahead and move on to the animate. Now we have this new section set up for the iOS. And basically, let's go ahead and so now before you had to actually, you know, tap and, you know, put your animation tracks down. Now literally one tap on the left there animates the image. You're good to go. And one tap.
But then, yeah, and that's so cool. So you just masked out what you wanted to stay still, and then you just went there and just automatically animated. Now you can then scroll through, like say you didn't like that one, you can't. You just go to another one and just kind of test stuff out. Yeah, so you could just click around that bottom and test all different types of animations out, right?
Yep. Click on all. Yeah, I think we have like 20 something presets now, and we'll have more. But what's cool is it shows, you know, if we pause for just a second here too, we could see where the animation tracks are, and that will show you what the preset's doing. So what it does, it also trains you like, oh, so if I put the animation tracks there, this is what it does. So you can go through all the presets, almost even like a training sort of thing. Now, a lot of animators who have been doing this for a while, you know, we've been out for a few years now, they kind of prefer to do it manually, and you still can do it manually. But this is a great way for people who get started just to see where those animation tracks are. And even for even our team and I will get surprised because we'll tap on just a few things that we probably would not have normally done. And we're like, dang, that looks pretty cool.
That's actually what I'm using it for is to
Yeah.
kind of explore, like we were talking about earlier on the show with Tracy. One of the things we were both talking about is, a lot of times you can see the same thing over and over and over. But when you start being able to just have that inspiration by clicking through there and saying, "Ooh, I didn't know what it would do if I swirled it." And if you start
Right.
swirling it, you're like, "Ooh, that's kind of a cool effect, or that's kind of trippy, or maybe I like that, and maybe I could like that with something else." So it kind of starts
Right.
opening up your mind to different things, And
Absolutely.
that's what I love about it, is it's really simplifying it down, because that's always been the thing with getting this right with photographers, especially, is we're not used to animating or moving stuff, and now basically all we're doing is painting over what we don't want to move and then hitting a button to have it animate. But then isn't it when you have it animated like that, if you want to at that point adjust the animation points, you can do that as well, right, from the presets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. You just go to the select tool, and then you can
Yeah.
grab any part of the animation, or you can add more animations if you want, like in a certain spot.
Yeah, that's cool.
You have full control. You basically have full control of your image.
Yes, and
And
this is
then,
brand new. This just came out
yeah,
so if you haven't updated your app in a couple weeks, I mean, this is brand new. It just came out, right?
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I know Apple's really excited about this too. They were super excited for
Yeah,
us
I
to
mean,
get
how
this.
cool does that look? I mean, see, because that's the other thing is I've noticed. So I know with my stuff, so big thing now is, everybody posts their top 9 images, right, that of the year and stuff like that, that they have on like Instagram and stuff like that. And I noticed that 5 of my top 9 images were plotographs. So it was
Wow,
definitely the most, and the 2 of the top 3 were plotographs. So
wow,
yeah.
awesome,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
awesome.
definitely something when people see it on social media, because it's that kind of blurring that gap between video and still, it kind of gets you where you go, what's going on here? And I think for photographers, there's other tools out there, but the thing with Plotograph versus others is you do not have to learn anything new. All you got to do is keep on taking photographs.
That's right.
The other way around, which I've tried before, my style, you can't do it. When something goes from very light to very dark, or very dark to very light, in my case, a scene goes dark to very bright, that if you try to take video and then do what's called a cinemagraph, it just doesn't work. 2, if you're going to shoot cinemagraphs, you've got to start shooting video. You've got to start stabilizing your tripod. You could never shoot it handheld, and that's the one thing. If you look at like Tracy's work, for example, Tracy was just, you were just saying, Tracy, you don't shoot anything on a tripod. You're all handheld. Like, that means that basically every other technique for this is out. It's only going to be a plotograph at that point. So that's what's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes part of my inspiration from the beginning. Flixel did a really good job making Cinemagraph Pro.
Yep.
And once again, this is really mostly for videographers.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Gosh, photographers really need a tool like this. And so my co-founder and I, Sasha and I, created the app, and it's been a hit. And so now it's just our job to get it out there to let photographers know. And part of our issue is a lot of photographers who know about it don't like talking about it because they don't want anybody to know their secret. So, it's just getting it out there and really kind of like creating a new tool even for the customers. It's something they get to post on their social media, and they get more engagement from it. And it's just it's a lot of fun. And then a lot of the overlays that you can add to it too are just endless. I think we have like almost 700 overlays now.
Yep.
So anything you can imagine, like if you add the snow in, and there's a lot of other different, like whether butterflies in there, and then you're able to pinch and zoom and make the butterflies small or big, or you could change the color of the butterflies very easily. Everything that we did is basically super easy to use.
You change the opacity of the overlays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really cool, and then that's what's so cool about it is you could start adding the dynamics to it, adding those kind of foreground overlays, or even just kind of stylized effects to it.
Yeah,
you
can really customize it for how you want. Basically, it's just another tool for you to be creative with. And now that most images are really being viewed on a digital screen, images don't have to be still anymore. and it's just, we know the numbers, and animated images get a lot more attention than a traditional still. And it's fun to play with. This is another tool that's easy to use. You don't, like you said, it's not like a very hard thing to kind of jump into. And there's a lot of animators out there too. So a lot of photographers, if they don't want to animate themselves, I suggest we have the Plotaverse app on all platforms basically. So if you ever wanted to find an animator to animate your images, our animators are looking for great images to animate. So sometimes photographers want to just combine forces with a photograph artist, and they kind of can work back and forth and help each other. That's also a great way to do things too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is very cool, and I think the point or the hitting the nail on the head was that this is why I'm so passionate about this. This was designed for photographers.
Absolutely.
There's no other tool
Yes.
that's designed for photographers. What it is
Right.
every other tool is, well, you're a photographer, you could shoot video. And it's like, well, but I'm a photographer, I don't shoot video. I don't want to shoot video. Well, if you're a photographer and you don't shoot video, this is a tool for you.
Definitely.
Yeah, I understand. It's not for everybody. Not every tool is for everybody. And there's also with it, there's times when, that Plotaverse, Plotograph might not be the right tool for the image. Like, for example, it sometimes doesn't work if I do like long exposures, because there isn't a lot of detail to make move at that point. It still works for some of them, but it doesn't work for all of them. Just like, my point to that is, just like every image shouldn't be black and white. Every image shouldn't be color. There's sometimes when black and white's right. There's sometimes when this could be a great tool for you. So, yeah, but we got to take a break. But when we come back, I just want to finish up this topic about, shooting in the winter. Want to talk about some stuff from Tracy, and from, we got a contest, and we got some giveaways from from Plotaverse. So join us just back in a couple minutes.
You don't have to be an expert in Photoshop to use compositing techniques. What this class is specifically designed to do is to show the everyday photographers how they can use compositing techniques in their images. There are a couple rules that need to be followed. First is going to be perspective. You want to make sure that the perspectives match between both images. You also want to make sure that the quality of light matches. You also want to make sure that the color and contrast match between those two images. I think it's important for photographers to at least know the techniques of compositing in case they have a situation where a client comes back at them and says, hey, this is my favorite image from our shoot, but for an example, the hair is across my cheek. You can very easily composite in the cheek from another outtake, and then you're able to save that image, and you're gonna end up with a happier client. I want you guys to come check out my new class, All on Compositing. It's for you beginners out there, only on KelbyOne.com.
Shadows are a major part of compositing. Even though they're all different and it can seem really difficult, there are very clear steps that you can take. Just from those two layers, we can see how the shadow is starting to come into play here. So we talk about seamless, but what does that mean? And it's not just getting the shadow underneath it looking right, but matching the shadows, where you paint some custom shadows to the object and get that a perfect seamless transition. To add to this would be to darken it a little bit, so some non-destructive dodge and burn, to add some other highlights, and ultimately to add some color to it. So you really have to become an artist physicist in reverse engineering things and trying to think how it might look. I'm Brett Malley, I'm author and a KelbyOne instructor, and I'm going to blow your mind with fun shadows of how you composite shadows seamlessly in any kind of composite situation.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
All right, we're back. So we're here, and we have Tracy and Troy, I believe, here. And then we're just talking about winter, So one of the things we just talked about was during winter, we have a lot of downtime. We're not out shooting sometimes. We're just snowed in. And that's a perfect time to learn something new. And one of the things that's new for photographers, and it's not new, but it's new, if you haven't been using it before, is Plotaverse. So, Troy, where do they go check out if they want to check out more about Plotaverse? Where should they go?
If you're on mobile, it's as simple as just searching Plotaverse on the App Store or Play Store. If you're on desktop, plotaverseapps.com is the place to go, and that's where you can access all the apps. We have it for Mac and PC.
And you guys are running a holiday sale right now, right?
Yep, for a couple more days, we have 50% off both our monthly and our annual.
Oh, cool. And then now for the contest today, you're actually going to be giving away, I believe, three 3-month memberships to Plotaverse, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So just when we get to the contest, that's going to be one of the things that you can win. So we thank you guys for doing that. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. I've been using this for a while now, and it's definitely that. What I love about it, especially, is that you can start out where you can do like you're showing, where you can start out with, especially now. When I got into it, it wasn't as it's very intuitive now, or it's becoming more intuitive now. When I got into it, it was still intuitive, but like we didn't have those features, and that's what's cool is now you have those features. We want to get into it where you can just paint over something, mask it out, and then hit the auto animate. That's really cool. But what's cool about it too is that from there's even the desktop version or then the pro version where you can really get in and start really adjusting the mask. You can start doing feathering. You can start getting into anchor, animation points. You can get really fine precision. Now you can do that with the app. You can do pretty much everything with the app too. But it's cool that there is a roadmap that if you really get into it, that you can take it really far. And I think that's cool.
Definitely 4K exports and anything you need in any professional mode for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's really cool. It's really cool to use for portraits, for landscapes. Like we were showing, I think, even with Tracy's work with kids and snow and stuff, it's really, really dynamic. So very cool. Very cool. Well, is Tracy still around, or I haven't seen it? You still around? Hey, Tracy, how's it going?
I'm great. I actually love that demo. I was like glued, so that was perfect.
Awesome. Well, cool. Yeah. So I know you were messing around with the software maybe a couple years ago, right?
I was, and you know what? Like, I'm already sold. I'm going to try it again because at first it was just a learning curve for me that I didn't have time for the moment. But I loved it, the concept of it. So if it's more intuitive, I'm definitely.
And I think that's the thing right now, and that's really where with this new update, this has been something. I know I talked to Troy about this in the past, and that is now having this to where people. It's the learning curve right in the beginning. It's getting to understand like how to animate, how not to animate, and stuff like that. And when you can do that easy, then it starts opening up that doors, because it really is just moving stuff, putting arrows around and masking out stuff, and that's it. It's not anything where you need to start learning video. And when you go to export, they tell you the settings that you need to export. I mean, it's very, very easy to use. So there you go. You want to go to one of the things, you can go to custom, or you can go right to all the, you want to go to Instagram, there you go. You want to go to Messenger, there you go. It's super easy. So, which has changed over the years. But again, what's cool is this is designed for photographers. And I could definitely see where there's a lot of parents that love this stuff, just different ways to share their kids' memories and stuff like that. So
the kids love to animate too. The kids like jump on it, and it's amazing what they do with it.
Oh yeah, my daughter's big on it whenever I do stuff. So, yeah. But hey, one other thing that I wanted to talk about that's really cool is, Tracy, you got a new book out, right?
I do, yes.
So if you're totally, if you're into kids, you're into children photography, you want a great book on stuff, you've got a book on Amazon, Kids, Photos to Brighten Your Day. So who's this book designed for?
Honestly, it's designed for anyone who just enjoys bright images of children. It's essentially more of like, it's not an instructional book so much as a book of
Yep.
inspiration, just sort of a collection of really happy images.
Right. Well, and I think that is the key to. While it isn't a instructional book in the sense of step by steps, one of the things that's cool about it is it's a book to kind of inspire you. Is to inspire you, and inspiration can be the best style of learning. Just like we were just talking about with Plotograph and being able to see how images animate and stuff like that, having a button to where you can see, we're flipping through that book. If you can see, oh, well, that's cool, I never thought about doing that, or oh, that's cool, I never thought about, having that kind of light effect. Then what's really cool from there is you've got 6 classes on KelbyOne, which will teach you pretty much how to make all those images.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's what's so cool. I mean, like, look at that one. That's great.
Thank you.
Those are awesome. My daughter would love that whole section. She's all into animals. So, but yeah, we do have a question. This is a side question. So, Christine's asking, any tips for shooting winter landscapes with snow? I could tell you that my tip would be, make sure with snow that go out after it snows, like right after it snows. I don't know how you feel, Tracy, about portraits and stuff, but I know that right afterwards with landscapes with snow, everything is pristine and beautiful. And then a few days in, everybody starts walking out, animals start walking around, it starts getting a little messy, and then you want that pristine. So my biggest tip would be that. I don't know if you have any tips, maybe not for shooting just landscapes, but just in general, shooting in winter.
I agree with you entirely. When that, and there's also that stillness, right? When it stops snowing, that I enjoy. I talk a lot about just mood and feeling as I'm shooting. And so there's really something beautiful and tranquil in that. The other thing that's nice too is even if you have to trek somewhere, the beauty is it's really easy to edit out steps in pretty pristine snow.
Yes.
Clone things and make it look as though everything just fell so marvelously. But yeah, it'll quickly turn to slush and quickly turn to muck and then it's gone.
So that's my thing, is just look at that weather, and if it's gonna snow, like, that's the next day you're going out. And you're going to be the first one out there. So,
yeah.
And
finally, the big beauty is in planning. I mean, it's really hard to plan for a snow shoot, but the story for me, the child photographer, is snow day, no school. We can get the kids outdoors and, shoot away. So that's also the other kind of just neat thing in general, is just that enthusiasm in and of itself, that feeling of what a snow day means.
Yes.
Can be captured.
Yes, that's very cool. Hey, well, Troy, you've been photographing for forever, right? I mean, how long have you been? Yeah. So, do you have any tips for that? Because that's one thing that I think, again, is cool about Plotograph, is that you're a photographer. This was built for photographers because you're a photographer. So, what do you obviously you're in, I know you're roughing it right now in Maui, Hawaii, but I'm sure you shot in the winter. And I'm sure you shot in the snow. What tips would you have?
Yeah, I've done a lot of shoots in Iceland and Alaska and Banff, all over the place.
Yep.
Earlier you talked about the batteries, and that, of course, is an issue. Sometimes keeping the batteries good, and just keeping the lens clean. Actually, a lot of times that's the thing that usually happens with me. I shoot kind of some wider lenses, even in fashion. So just keeping, a lens cloth handy to keep the lens clean. It's interesting when I'm shooting, and usually I was more production, so we had models lined up and they were intense or whatever it might be, and I would just be out there the whole time. So just staying as warm as you can, keeping the hand warmers in there. But it's magic can happen in these winter conditions, and setting up now when I shoot, I actually purposely shoot for animation. So if it is snowing, I'll know, we're going to make the snow, or if it's not snowing, we have a beautiful snow scene, we can add the snow later. I won't worry about it. But it changes the way of thinking, because if you're an advertising photographer, a lot of times you're shooting to keep clean space. right? For the logo. But now on a plotograph or an animated image with motion art, you want movement back there because the logo pops off of it. So it almost is the opposite of what you would normally do in a traditional still shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and those are all great tips, and that's really when you get down to it. I think one of the biggest things, is staying comfortable when you're shooting in the winter, because that's where it is. One thing, you're going to want to be out there at those magic times. When do we always say to shoot? It's like sunrise, sunset. I mean, it's going to be colder at sunrise, sunset. The sun it's going below the horizon or it's coming above the horizon. It's not been out. So,
and you get a lot of great bounce off the snow. So if you're shooting in snow, the lights, it's a lot easier. Like, because you just get that light from everywhere.
Well,
so
like we were talking about earlier, a lot of times in the winter, we have overcast, which overcast, a lot of people go, oh, it's just going to be an overcast day. Overcast can be beautiful, especially for portrait photography.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
So very cool. Well, cool, guys. Well, thanks to both of you for coming on. I love talking about a winter. I love the winter for the few days we have it down here, and whenever I can get up to the winter, but I just don't want to live in the winter. So that's cool. Well, yeah, because I noticed even with Tracy up there, we started and it was like, twilight, and it's already like pitch dark out there.
Pitch dark, and I have a space heater close by, so I'm kind of upset with both of you.
Yeah, like the sun's not going down for a while here. So. All right, well, thanks, guys, and we'll be back next week. Let's see. Contest. I do got to tell you guys about the contest. If you want to enter the contest, you go to KelbyOne.com/contest. If you go there, there's a form, and you fill out the form and you tell us what you want to win. We have the Platypod, we have the Lens Pro to Go, we have the Photoshop for Lightroom users, and we have those 3 months of Plotaverse from Plotograph. So, so just tell us what you want to win, and then we'll pick 3 lucky winners anywhere around the world. Well, 6 lucky winners all the way around the world, and we'll send you guys your stuff. So, we'll want to say thanks to Troy, and thanks to Tracy. And Tracy, where can they find more about you? Like if they want to on social.
So I'm Tracy Sweeney. My business is Alon Studio. So www.alon-studio.com. Facebook's Alon Studio. Instagram Tracy_Sweeney.
Cool. And Troy, for you guys, it's just Plotaverse.com.
Plotaverseapps.com. If you're interested in getting the desktop, and then on Instagram or Facebook, it's just once again at Plotaverse.
And that's Plotaverse, right? Yep.
That's
Plotaverse.
right.
There you go. There you go, right there. Well, thanks, guys, and I appreciate it. We'll be back next week. I think Scott's going to be here, and I'm not sure what we'll be talking about, but it'll be something really cool. So,
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you guys all next week.